And I want to make a really big statement here. I believe DHCP saved the internet. What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike. Thank you for joining me. You guys are awesome. So guys, today I want to talk about my favorite subject, IP addresses. And more specifically, public versus private IP addresses. And then I want to talk about DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that DHCP saved the internet. Now don't call me crazy, and I'll explain why I think this is so. But first, let's talk about public IP addresses versus private IP addresses. A public IP address is what your ISP gives you. It's unique and it's one of a kind. And these public IP addresses are registered to the internet. And these IP addresses are used externally. And like I said before, they're assigned by your ISP, your internet service provider. And these addresses are not free and they're not secure. And you're probably wondering, how many public IP addresses are there? Well, the answer is over 4 billion. And you might think, well, that's plenty of IP addresses. You'll never use those up. Well, that's not the case. 4 billion was not enough. And when I refer to IP addresses, I'm referring to IPv4. And like I said before, when they engineered these IP addresses, they thought 4 billion would be plenty, but it wasn't. So in October of 1993, DHCP was created, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. So what is DHCP? DHCP is software that automatically assigns IP addresses to computers and clients, which are signed into an IP network. DHCP was created by Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol Working Group, which is part of the Internet Engineering Task Force. And DHCP was based on the technology that came before it, namely BootP. BootP assigns static IP addresses to the devices on the IP network. However, BootP was not functional because it required manual configuration, and thereby DHCP was born. DHCP allows for new hosts and devices to be added at will with dynamically handled IP addresses. Then each device requires a lease, which is the amount of time that the DHCP server allows the device to use that particular IP address. And an IP address, in simple terms, is the numeric identification or logical address assigned to PC computers or devices that is part of a computer network. And these IP addresses created by the DHCP server are private IP addresses. Unlike public IP addresses that you get from ISPs, your private IP address is created by your DHCP server. And these IP addresses are not unique. As a matter of fact, these IP addresses are used on multiple networks. And to prove I'm correct, I bet your IP address is 192.168.1.1. And unlike public IP addresses, private IP addresses are not registered. And once again, unlike public IP addresses, private IP addresses are used internally. And private IP addresses are assigned by the router using DHCP. And what's great about private IP addresses is that they're free and secure. Now we'll go back to my original statement. DHCP saved the internet. And the reason that DHCP saved the internet is that if this software was not created, we would have ran out of IP addresses a long time ago. Sure, we could have used BootP, but manually configuring IP addresses, that's not practical. And I'm willing to bet if they didn't create DHCP, they would have created something else. But as for right now, DHCP did save the internet. And once again, guys, if you have any questions about DHCP or IP addresses, public or private, leave your questions in the comments below. I answer all questions. And once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I'll see you in the next video real soon. Peace.